What's up, everybody? Marcus and I are just going to do a show today, and we're just going to show you how we plan the show, and that'll be the show. So,
who are you talking to, Sean?
I don't know. To our loyal fans,
future listeners.
yeah. So, have you ever ridden horses before, Marcus?
I have, but when I was a kid, I've never ridden a horse when I was an adult. And one time was in Venezuela, actually.
Really?
I was 10 years old. It was in a place called Maracaibo, I believe. It was close to the lakes. And they had like this attraction park up in the hills. So it was like this really long drive in this little minivan on this dusty road, you know, like unpaved roads and like big rocks and stuff. And you had this like water stream right next to the road, like, you know, that the rain that comes down from the mountains and stuff. And I remember it was really like this long, but I was young, you know, so sometimes when you're young, 30 minutes can feel like 3 hours, right? But
yes.
Anyway, we reached this like base station. It's really nothing there, and it's not like your Disneyland kind of attraction, but they tried to make something. And then as we reached the place, like these 6 guys jumped on the van from the side with like knives in their mouth, you know. And I was
What?
like, whoa. But that was like your welcome to the attraction park. So it was like actors jumping on the van, but right away it was like, so that was pretty cool. And then they took us up on like these 4x4 things up into like the hill.
Yeah.
And, anyway, they had all these weird attractions, like a hole in the ground, and then you look in the hole and you see that there's like this thing with like a chest with like gold coins in it. So you want to reach in that hole and grab the gold coin, but then like this hairy arm grabs your arm, you know. Like, so they had all these like
all
attractions.
attractions.
Yeah, it was all attractions, and
Yeah.
but there was also like this horse ride you could do there. So I was like, okay, I want to try that too, you know. So my parents got me up on a horse, and then you have this guy walking with the horse who has like a rope tied to the head of the horse.
Yeah.
Again, I've never ridden horse beside like an occasion like this. But this guy started walking with me, and it was right on the edge. And I remember like looking down the edge. It was like a ravine, you know, like really steep, like hundreds of feet down. And like the horse just for some reason liked to walk right on the edge. So I don't know, that was pretty scary.
Did you get running at all with the horses? Like, did you get galloping, or was it just walking?
No, it's just walking. I've never galloped on or ran on a horse.
Yeah, so this was my second time riding horses, and my first time I did it, it was on my visit at Utah State. So like if you are a basketball player, right? Teams, when they offer you a scholarship, a lot of times they'll fly you out to their school, and then you'll get to kind of go around the campus. You get to meet the coaches, you get to see the girls that are on campus, you hang out with some of the guys that are on the team. You kind of just get to know everybody, right? And like, okay, am I gonna like living here for the next how many ever years?
Right.
So on my visit up to Utah State, where I eventually ended up signing, they took me on. I was there, and they like rolled out the red carpet for me, so it was pretty cool. They took me.
Oh, nice. So you signed?
Well, they took me horseback riding, which I had never done before, and my mom was like freaking out. She was like, "Don't do it, or you're gonna get injured," you know.
So how does it work? Like, are like your legs or something like insured because you're like a pro baller?
No,
Do you have like special insurance for like?
I'm not that good. I'm no LeBron James. But I wish they were insured, because I tore my ACL twice after that. So, but I'm back playing again. But yeah, I rode horses then, and we just walked, nothing more. And they just put like one horse in front of the other, you know. And so the one horse's nose is on the other one's butt. That's how they were leading you, and it was cool. But then this time, so my buddy has a ranch in Utah, and this time he taught me how to ride. So like how how to make it go left and how to make it go right. What do you gotta do to stop it? Or you gotta
That's
kick
weird,
it
right?
gently,
Because
make it go faster. And so like I got a good gallop going, and it can get scary when you start galloping on a horse because you're not strapped into anything. You're just like bumping up and down, and you're like,
yeah, and if
trying
it's
to
like
like
your first
pump the
time,
air as you're going. It's crazy.
you don't have like any kind of muscle memory of how to deal with that situation yet, right? Because it's like your first or second time.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know if you ever had cats or dogs or something, but you know, like whether you have cats or dogs, they all have like their own personality. And I'm sure it's the same thing with horses, but
Yeah.
it's weird when I see a horse, I don't know how to like look for personality in there because I've never spent enough time around a horse to understand like how smart are they, you know, and like what are their little things they do.
I would say horses are pretty smart, I think, because I think they kind of understand what kind of a rider you are. And but you kind of have to show the horse that you're confident. Like if you're scared, you don't show the horse you're
And the horse is making fun of you.
or it could scare the horse, right? Like it could just take over. You have to be the one in control when you're on top of the horse. You don't want the horse to take control of you.
That's what she said.
Is it?
Stole that from Anders.
Okay. So what's going on with Bitcoin this week, dude?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. We had a nice little pump there.
Yeah, we're making up. You think we're finally going to get out of the?
So we
had 9 weeks straight.
We have 9 red candles straight. You know, like a 10th candle is still in the cards.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll see week's end.
What's the price right now?
Put it up on the screen.
It's 31,755. It got up to 30. It got up to 32.2. Some mini pump for ants.
Yeah, but you know, it's good. At least we're getting a decent bounce off of what is it, like this 30K floor. I mean, we were mostly 29, 28, I believe. Yeah. We were in this tight range for this long time. So who knows? Who knows? It's all short-term short-term noise.
I had a friend.
But it is funny, right? Because I don't know. I always see it as like, okay, the more Bitcoin goes down, you know, the more people get bored. You see the shit coins going down. People are leaving out of there. So, you know, like the whole sentiment around the space like cools down, if you will, you know, and then you kind of notice it in how I had a really funny interaction today, by the way, because
what happened?
I was at the garage and I was talking to my you know, like the owner of the garage. He's like the mechanic as well. He's like really like this MacGyver type, you know. And I had to fix a backlight. One of the pins got broken off and it was like corroded, and it actually broke off, and he like just fixed it by putting some other pin in there. Yeah. And like I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, in 2020, I sold one of my cars. Oh, and at the time I got half a Bitcoin for it, which was around 5,000. And so I think the Bitcoin price was around 10, you know, and the car was like, I got like 5,000 that I took out of the car that I put into Bitcoin, and I bought back like a really cheap car. Mm-hmm. And so even now, you know, after this big crash, you know, like we're pretty low right now, but even now that that Bitcoin is worth 15,000K, you know? Yeah. So he was like, yeah, but Bitcoin has been really low right now. You know, I was like, yeah, well, it depends on how you look at it. You know, it's like, yeah, right. It's really low compared to like last year, but compared to 2 years ago, like we're still up like 3 to 4x. So,
Yeah.
and the next thing he asked me, he was like, yeah, but I've got an account set up and I was going to do it, but he asked me, how do you use it? So I told him, he was like, do you just hold it or do you trade it? Because I also see like these 200 other coins in there. I was like, no, dude, it's just Bitcoin.
Did
It's
you
my
tell him,
retirement. So
where
you
did you
just
tell him to
hold it.
buy? Did you tell him to go buy at some altcoin casino or what?
I didn't tell him to buy. That was a joke. I mean, I did tell him like 2 years ago, when I sold the car and stuff. I told him about Bitcoin back then already. So he knows, like I already had that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he remembers that I talked to him about Bitcoin 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell him where to buy or anything. I didn't get that deep with him. But I thought I'd bring it up again now, see where he's at. So in the meantime, he has thought about it. So he did look at it. He got like an account set up, all through his own interactions or research or whatever.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's kind of funny to see because that's something that's changed as well. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, most people like had no idea what Bitcoin was, let alone they set up accounts. So you see like a little, like that penetration amongst the normies and retail consumers. It's like, it's fun to monitor.
Yeah, it's just a couple of touch points, right? Like every time you hear about it, it just gets you closer to really studying it. It's crazy because, dude, every time I go to a party or a get together, now I'm always the Bitcoin guy. I'm like, like people are like, oh, you're investing in Bitcoin, right? Like, well, tell me about it. The problem is if you have like 30 people listening, well, not 30, but if you have like a bunch of people listening, then everyone's just trying to like make their joke, And I'm like, are you good? Do you really want to know? Or, because then they'll be like, oh, Dogecoin and NFTs and all this stuff. And then, so it's hard to even get your point across, first of all. And then sometimes you can talk to someone. What I just do now is I just go, I was talking to a couple of friends at this get together this last weekend. And one of them, she does marketing for a really cool, it's like a cookie company, really cool company. And she's awesome, by the way. And she was asking me about Bitcoin and stuff. And I think they might be looking at NFTs. And I just tell them straight up, like, I am Bitcoin only. I think it's going to be better for your brand in the long run. If you are Bitcoin only, you won't get involved in any scams. You won't get involved in any pump and dump schemes. You like none of that stuff. And so I think I try to get my point across. And then I just say, yeah, I could be pretty extreme, but at the same time, like look at everything that's happened. But a lot of people, they just don't know, they don't have the experience, and like they haven't been watching all like the altcoin scams that have happened, like Luna, or they haven't seen like the crypto kitties come through, back in 2017, which I kind of equate those to the NFTs nowadays. And then the biggest thing I always say is like, what does what do any of the altcoins solve? Like what do NFTs solve for? And like that's when no one can ever answer that. And then so I go, yeah, like that's the difference with Bitcoin.
Yeah, for some reason we always go back to the altcoins. I mean, I think we're giving them like way too much attention for some reason. Maybe that's changing as well. At least I have that hope now again. Now that the altcoins are like bleeding again, it's like it's kind of self-cleaning, like self-rinsing, self-cleansing. It's you really see like a lot more tweets about people saying, like, okay, I'm done with shit coins. From now on, it's like Bitcoin only. But at the same time, you kind of know, okay, it's all gonna come back as well. Once we get through the, like they're gonna rebrand NFTs. What do we had? We had ICOs, that turned into NFTs and
DeFi.
web and DeFi and Web3. I mean, we already forgot about like sushi and yam. And
Oh,
remember that
that was
stuff?
like
I remember
2020.
making like
All those
yeah.
like food
Yeah, they
altcoins.
pumped like before like Bitcoin even pumped, like before like
Yes,
the crazy run started, they started like popping off, and like before like the
I
bull run
forgot
even
about those.
started, like
Yes,
these shit coins started like sprouting out like wild, and you could have made like 100x, 1000x or whatever if you were one of like the early lucky whatevers. And then everybody's like, no, yam is the future, and then it dies, you know, and like,
yes,
oh, and some people got rug pulled, some people got extremely lucky, and because some people get lucky, you know, people also like that excitement, right? It's always gonna attract people to spend some money on that stuff as well. So, and they don't care if they even lose it. I have a friend as well. He's just like, I don't care. I put like $200 in. If I lose it, whatever. If it goes 100x, then I have like $20,000. You know, so yeah,
yeah,
I don't think that's gonna go away for some reason. So, I guess you know, like if you look at like you know, Bitcoin, that's what initially draws people in the end. So it's not that strange either. That it's just once you get on Twitter and people start defending it, you know, or start throwing shade at Bitcoin to promote these things, you know, and to scam people out of money, yeah, then we got to get toxic, you know, you got to push them back. But
yeah,
on the other hand, we're giving them like way too much time. I think everybody knows that when you're talking about, at least if you're interested in learning about that side, you know, what's the real thing about Bitcoin is, you know, it's the best, hardest money, you know, which is truth and fair, a fair system
yeah,
against this whole clown world that that's been created. I don't know. It's just two complete different topics. You know, when you look at like NFTs or other projects, and you got like these influencers like Pomp. You know, I already hear him like switching his narrative. You know, it's like, yeah, we got to invest in like all technology because that's going to drive the economy. You know, like we anyway.
yeah.
I don't
The,
know. Yeah, what do you think?
it's I think it will last for a long time too, right? Like there's just people that are, I mean, people go to the casino. I go to the casino. I have a good time hanging out with friends, but I don't go to the casino like by myself, you know? Like I think that's what's kind of weird to me about the altcoin casino is it's like you're going to the casino, but you go by yourself. Like you don't have any buddies with you. Like you don't see like who your buddies if they're winning money or not. Right? It's kind of like self isolation in a casino, and a lot of these people are like don't even know that they're in a casino too. Like there's some people that know, okay, like whatever, this is casino. I'm just gambling. Whatever. I got $200, but there are other people who have no clue. Like they believe that Chainlink is the next Bitcoin, you know, there's people that believe that, or that
Yeah,
Hex is way better than Bitcoin, or all these stupid coins that have nothing behind them. They actually believe that there's something there. So that's
yeah,
like the only reason to like really harp on not putting any money into those projects, which really are projects, they're scams.
yeah. Yeah, but they just open their app and they look at their list of coins and they look at the graphs and like, oh, this looks like a bullish setup. I'm just gonna buy some. And nobody's reading white papers or evaluating whether the project is centralized or decentralized or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Speaking of decentralized or not decentralized, do you see that the Lightning Network capacity hit its all-time high?
yeah. What are we on? Was it like
I think it was 30.
5,000 Bitcoin on the network?
No, I don't think it was 3,900, just over 3,900 Bitcoin.
Okay, so almost 4,000. Yeah.
Almost 4K Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're early, man. It's early days, but it's gonna be interesting.
Think
No,
about how
seriously,
early we are, though. Because
because I
4,000
heard again.
Bitcoin, like, how many Bitcoin are mined in a day? 900.
Yes.
So that's 4 or 5 days of Bitcoin being mined. That's it.
Yeah. That's it for now. But if you look at it already, you can already see it's like growing, like it's like doubling within months. So it's it's on a growth path. It's going to be very interesting to follow. And once that market cap exceeds all these,
all
the
the
market
other
cap of like all these other
crypto.
coins that have the use case of fast and cheap transactions like XRP or Nano or all this other trash. It's gonna be so funny because right now they're actually laughing. I actually heard that guy, what's his name, BitBoy Crypto. He's like, what is there on like Bitcoin? Like only a few thousand Bitcoin on their Lightning network, but dude,
it's true. Like that's not
it's
that
gonna
much,
be
but it
it's gonna
is.
be so funny to play that back to him in like a
It
few
is
years.
100. So I just did the math. It's $123 million of liquidity on the Lightning Network.
Yeah.
So
And you see it as well because the news. I saw Pierre Richard. He tweeted out today that Kraken now you can deposit or withdraw Bitcoin through Lightning from Kraken. And they also updated their mobile pro app, and you can now send and receive Bitcoin to your exchange, which is basically like your new bank, if you still want to use a bank, for whatever reason. But it's funny to see how that is being adopted. Lightning, Lightning was first, I believe, conceived in like 2017. That was written about for the first time. So if you think about it, in just 5 years, it went from like a concept to implementation, reality, and it works and it's growing, and what does it add to like? Yeah, maybe you can explain that. What does it add to like the Bitcoin base layer?
What it adds is it like money is three faceted, right? You have the store of value, which that's what Bitcoin is already over the long run, right? It's short term, quote unquote, volatile, but maybe it's just fiat that's volatile and it's getting measured out. We're measuring it incorrectly with fiat, but either way, it looks volatile to like a normal person. And then, but store value over a 4 or 5 year period, Bitcoin's always gone up. And then medium of exchange, this is where Lightning Network comes into play because it's way easier to just transfer sats over Lightning Network than it is over the Bitcoin's base layer.
Yeah, the user experience is better because it's faster. You get like it's instant. It's like not like you press pay and it's like sent. And the fees are like near zero, right? I mean, you have to open up a Lightning channel unless you use like one of the custodial services, which is fine too, I guess, for small payments. I mean, it's still sats. You can convert them into cold storage anytime, depending what service is using. There's a small fee with it, but it's just you get to really transact in Bitcoin lightning fast. That's why the name Lightning is really good. It's just lightning fast, and it's really cool because I had a guy over here that I met, a fellow Bitcoiner who came down here to Amsterdam. We went to like this wooden shoe farm. And the guy accepts Bitcoin. We made a Lightning payment. It's and for those kind of things, if you want to transact in sats around the globe and you don't have to exchange, and of course more merchants and everywhere are gonna have to start accepting Bitcoin and Lightning. But I think in a lot of countries it's very much a hassle still because we've been under attack by the government from day one. The minute they say that when you sell or buy Bitcoin, or you get hit up with like what do you call it? Capital gains tax, right?
But if you mine Bitcoin from your house
Yeah, but
KYC free.
okay, yeah, it's possible, but then you're like more a little bit of a pirate, you know? But basically, like
I'm not
Bitcoin,
advising, yeah,
no, but
to
like
break any
Bitcoin,
laws.
the
Right.
Bitcoin protocol, and now with Lightning, you know, it's like completely ready for this world. And ultimately, um, yeah, as long as we still have like nation states making the rules, and we have the taxman and stuff, and we have that law and order structure where everybody's supposed to adhere to, yeah, then the minute they decide like, hey, you know what, it's okay to use Bitcoin as money, you know,
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't classify it as like property with all like this paperwork burden when you spend some. No, we have to treat it as money. And then everybody will immediately experience what the benefits are of using Lightning and as payments, you know. But I
Yeah.
think that's something that the governments around the world have put in place, and they're really happy with that, because we can't, you know, they're not ready to have everybody running around paying with Lightning. They're really afraid of that.
Yeah. I think it's cool too. Like, I have no idea if Satoshi is alive or not anymore. Probably doubt it, but either way, Satoshi created Bitcoin, and I'm sure he thought like, okay, eventually one day there's going to have to be a layer two. I mean, I haven't read through all of his writings. I'm not sure if he had even mentioned that or not, but probably not, because all those Bitcoin cashers and BSVers go crazy over Lightning, and they never want to talk about Lightning.
Yeah,
But it's pretty cool that Satoshi created Bitcoin, and then he's like, okay, well, my job here is done, and now it's up to us to push forward. And right now, everyone is a developer and can create can do that with Lightning, but now it's gotten easier where you don't have to be a software developer to open up a Lightning channel. And the good thing about Lightning is that it still keeps the Bitcoin ethos, where it's still decentralized. Like, it's not a centralized platform, and it can't be, transactions aren't, it's so decentralized. Like, it just keeps everything about Bitcoin decentralized, censorship resistant, all those things. If you do it, you can do it that way, or you could put your Bitcoin onto some third party, Lightning app, and then it could be decent, it could be monitored more, or decent, or there could be capital controls on it in a sense. But if you do it from your own Bitcoin Lightning node, then they can't do anything about it. So that's what's really cool.
yeah. Well, you know what, the market is gonna decide. So, you know, given enough time, we're gonna see what happens with Lightning. But I mean, it's yeah, that graph, if you see how that went from that Lightning capacity, how much Bitcoin is now on Lightning, uh, that looks like a very, you know, in that short period of time of what, 4 years,
Yeah.
if you see it's growing, and it's really like a hockey stick, you know. I think like 80% of that number has been achieved like in the last year at least. So
Yeah.
it's going up fast.
Yeah, it is. Did you see this too?
Yeah,
Germany
Germany.
annual inflation rate jumped to 7.9%.
That's the official number.
Yeah, that's the CPI.
Yeah. And
That
it's a
was,
year over year comparison. So compared to 12 months earlier.
yes. Germany's annual inflation rate accelerated to 7.9% in May, its highest level in nearly half a century, according to an official estimate money. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing because it's actually kind of sad, but we called it. So, the Federal Statistical Office said year-on-year inflation jumped from 7.4% in April, with energy prices at 38.3% higher than in May last year, and food prices up 11.1%. Germany has Europe's biggest economy. So, I didn't even read that yet. So the CPI is at 7.9%, but their energy jumped up almost 40%, and food up 12. Like, what else do you spend your money on besides food and energy? I guess rent, but you can't tell me rent went lower.
Netflix. All the cheap stuff they put in there. Netflix.
All these numbers are so manipulated. It's crazy how all these numbers are manipulated.
Yeah, everybody knows it's more like 30 or 40%, like literally, right? Like I'm here in the Netherlands, which is like the direct neighbor of Germany.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like our supermarket bill has jumped like at least 30 to 40% for sure. You know, and the cost of everything has gone up. I've been doing a lot of renovations around the house. You know,
Yeah.
you go to the hardware store, anything you pick up is just like, wow. You know, like literally, holy shit. It's like I'm paying with a different currency. You know, it literally feels that way. It's all of a sudden like you had funny money.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just notice it's worth a lot less. So yeah, it's tough. And people are gonna get pissed, right? And who are they blaming it on? I mean, like my son even said to me, like I mentioned that I was talking to somebody about inflation, and my son jumped in. He's like, "Yeah, it's because of Russia." I was like, "No, it's not because of Russia," but that's what they tell you, right? But I mean, it's crazy. I mean,
Maybe a little, like
we've
maybe
been
a
yelling
little
for like.
bit, but it's because they're print. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you print trillions of euros? Like, look at this too. This was something right here. Oh, what's going on right here? Oh, it's thinking away. Okay, here we go now. The Eurozone inflation hits a record 8.1% amid rising energy costs. And who do they blame it on? Russia's war in Ukraine. But they never blame it. They never go like, oh, well, maybe we didn't, we shouldn't have printed all that money.
It's more like a formula. Anybody who writes like these articles always has to tie it to something. They always have to tie it to a reason, and they just come up. If Russia didn't happen, they would have mentioned COVID. You know, because of post-COVID.
Yeah,
they'd give it some name. You know,
when it's the response, right? What's the response of governments whenever there's a problem? The only response is print money. So that's the difference with Bitcoin is when there's an issue, you can't just print more Bitcoin. And people are scared about that, but that's actually a good thing because you don't rely on just creating cheap money and printing money out of thin air. You actually have to save money as a country or as the Eurozone or whoever. You have to actually save money in the most valuable asset. And then you have to ask yourself, is this money that we're going to spend actually worth what we're going to do? Because now no one ever asks themselves that question. They just go, hey, we're going to spend this money because we have the money printer. It's like if I had a money printer, I would just I would never ask myself twice, is this worth it? Is it not worth it? I would just print the money. It's just insane. The Eurozone inflation hit a record 8.1% in May. Like a record, like Germany's hit it was like a 60-year high. Eurozone has never had this high. Well, I don't know how long how long are they dating back the Eurozone? Is it from like, I don't know. Are they talking about Europe or are they talking about?
Look, the euro began in 1997, so I guess that's why they're referring to that.
Yeah, they're talking about the euro, the Schengen zone. You know, I don't know.
No, Schengen is basically like a free trade, like that they can cross borders for products and services with it.
Yeah,
it's like the economic zone.
Oh yeah, inflation.
So that's the Schengen agreement, that there's no border controls on goods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, so it says since 1997, since the euro began. You are correct, sir.
Yeah, but we're seeing pretty high inflation, right? And I'm obviously no economics guy, but it's pretty weird because super high inflation, interest rates, they're hiking with like what, 0.25 or what is it, like 0.25% or 0.5% or 50 basis points or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
All these small little incremental steps. And if you actually look at like the European, the balance sheet, they say we're going to bring it back down. You know, Christine Lagarde is there. Yeah, don't worry, you'll see. In due course, it will come.
Like it's just gonna take care of itself.
The joke is every week, you know, that balance sheet just keeps expanding. It's still expanding. It's crazy. So we have this massive inflation, right, of like almost double-digit percentages, and they're still expanding that thing and just threatening to tighten. But they know they can't tighten because the markets are already, you know, like showing very signs of stress. You know, like I don't know how much of the market caps of like the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 and stuff have been wiped out lately. But that's all on their word saying that we're going to tighten, you know?
Yeah.
They haven't even done it yet. So when I listen to like people like Jeff Booth or Preston Fish, you know, they're like, yeah, within like 3 months or so, something's going to break.
Oh yeah. That's yeah. And
I don't know what that will be, but you know, I'll be around for it. Never a boring day. It's just so weird to me. You know? It's like,
when
you find Bitcoin, you start following all this stuff, and then you realize, whoa.
And when one of those, and this is what like Greg Foss talks about too, right? When one of these currencies breaks, this is why Bitcoin is insurance on a basket of currencies. Because when one of these currencies breaks, whether it be the Canadian dollar or whatever, the people in those countries are going to pile into Bitcoin. And that's when it becomes, because Bitcoin's ready for that. And so this is going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, Canada is looking to ban their guns, which, you know, however you feel about guns, you know, obviously these shootings are terrible that have been happening in the United States, but I just don't know how you ban guns, right? You can't, like, we couldn't ban alcohol. Can't ban illegal drugs. How do you ban guns? There's no way that they can ban Bitcoin. It's not even physical. So it's like, I don't know, like you can say we're going to ban guns, but I just don't know how you do that. Like, how do you actually make that happen, right?
Could be a first step to banning Bitcoin, because take away their guns and then you can show up with guns and threaten them at gunpoint to give up their Bitcoin. But try to take Bitcoin from people with guns. Good luck.
Try to take guns from people with guns. Like, good luck. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know, man. Trudeau is he really gives me like I get like, what do you call it, like goosebumps in my neck, you know, when I hear this guy speak, especially like with these kind of speeches, and he has like this, I don't know, I have no idea. I get a very bad vibe from that man, and hopefully he won't be around in that position for too long, and hopefully Canada will elect a new leader, because they can use some leadership over there.
There's just a lot of communists out there. They don't want to work for anything, that they've all bought into this ESG narrative, which is communism 2.0, and they want to take your guns. They want to ban everything, that they don't know what it is. You just can't ban things. I mean, and even like, you can't, it's just hard if it's out there enough. I don't know how you ban something, right? Like, they tried to ban COVID. They couldn't ban COVID. Lockdowns and all these things. You can't.
Can you ban murder?
People murder anyway. They still murder, right? Like, they've tried to do that. So yeah, I don't see how you make that happen.
I guess they got it true, but I thought Canada was already like had more restrictions than the US on gun control and that kind of stuff. I thought I always thought you weren't allowed. I didn't even know that Canada. I mean, if you would have told me that Canada is a place where you need like a permit to have a gun or something like that, I would have believed it too.
I'm
I
sure
don't
they
know.
but I think that they had, it sounded like they had more guns than just handguns. And they're trying to
Yeah.
ban any gun besides a handgun, or like a 6 rounds, I think was what it was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I need to learn more about guns, probably.
I live in a country where guns are basically banned as well. So I've never owned guns.
Well, when you move, you better buy one.
Yeah, it's something I need to look into for sure. It's not top of my list, but it's funny, because yeah, through Bitcoin actually, I kind of see the that perspective a lot more now, but with self-sovereignty and
Mhm.
a check on the state as well. It's kind of like your how Bitcoin is just like an insurance or put option or whatever against the state failing. Like owning guns,
And I,
individuals owning guns is that last, when it really comes down to it, it's like who who works for who. You cannot fall for tyranny. You cannot let them take away your freedom. Everybody has a right to be free, and yeah.
when I
So
get,
I get it.
you don't want people going into schools shooting up kids, right? Like that's obvious. But at the same time, like how do you protect yourself from a government, or more than anything from a police state? Because that's what you're protecting yourself from. Like, yeah, obviously the government's gonna have fighter jets, they're gonna have like atomic bombs. So your guns aren't going to do anything against that. But why would the government wants taxpayers. That's what they want. They thrive off of taxes and off of like a hamster wheel people. So if you step out of line, then that's where they can come in. They have boots on the ground. The police can do whatever they do to you. If you don't have guns, like there's nothing to worry about. They can treat you however they want to treat you. And we saw it happen in COVID in certain countries. But there's like a
Yeah, but
country.
it's still weird though, because a lot of times, like also in the US, it's like even though people have guns, look at if I see how like the police operate in the US,
Mhm.
they're like super authoritarian. Yeah, like you better submit and comply to like the police officers in the US. And that's also their attitude, like all those police clips you see coming across. I mean, I guess that might also be like so.
But you can't make like the laws that were created in other countries. The United States remained a little bit more free than most other countries during, well, depending on state to state too, right? Um, but they remained more free during the COVID and when a lot of countries had lockdown after lockdown after lockdown, because like as a police officer, if there's a law that comes to you, like they know if they can uphold that law or not, right? Whether if it's a law that's just taking people's freedoms away, then they have a good idea, like, well, like they're not going to make the law because the policemen aren't going to enforce the law with people who have guns. And so, but if there's people who have like and this was what I was trying to say before, like a government's not going to just go after their own citizens with an atomic bomb and just destroy their own infrastructure, right? Or just level down a whole city because, oh, we're at war with our own citizens, because now like there goes your taxpayers, there goes your infrastructure, there goes everything that you had. So like the whole idea is take the weapons, then you have boots on. I guess this is what the idea that's out there, right? If
Yeah,
they,
but is that the idea of Trudeau, you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying this is or this is. I'm just saying this is out there, right? Like take the weapons from your citizens, and then you have boots on the ground. You have policemen who have guns, and now the people, they're forced to be more subservient to whatever law you put out there, the people have way less of a say. And now you can be even more authoritarian because you know that they can't, that there's nothing that they can do.
Look, I just think it's really healthy for a society to have this awareness of, look, we need to always keep our government in check, right? So that's really strong over there. And I think that's really good.
And that's what's so good about Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin is the ultimate check on government, right? Like, all right, you inflate your currency, we'll all move our wealth to something else.
I really like this idea, right? Like if, you know, if a government decides to, you know, create like a hard currency, then Bitcoin will suffer, right? Because Bitcoin is just a representation of like how many units are in the system. But
it's impossible for a government to create a hard currency.
It's impossible to do it, and they'll inflate it. But as they inflate it, you know, they'll inflate. Bitcoin is just a measuring stick of that, of how fast they inflate. That's kind of like the funny stuff about it.
That's why in my eyes, the dollar is already hyperinflating, because it's hyperinflating against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like, if you measure the dollar against the dollar, okay, that's different. But measure Bitcoin, like if your unit of account is Bitcoin, then the dollar is already in hyperinflation.
Right, but it's not only the inflation of the dollar, it's also that Bitcoin is still in an adoption phase, right? So there's this growth phase and this inflation combined together that produces the...
It's going to get more volatile. Bitcoin's going to get more volatile forever, in my opinion.
I don't think so.
I think it's gonna get more volatile as
more volatile.
As long as it's measured in the
priced in what? Priced in dollar.
As long as it's measured in the dollar, Bitcoin will get more and more and more volatile.
Yeah, it can literally just hyperinflate and just go crazy, just complete. But then nobody will be measuring it in dollars anymore. Then it's really just going to be like one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
Yes, it's going to be like, we're going to be in this like, it's so volatile, and then all of a sudden one day, like everyone will forget the dollar, and it'll be like, boom, oh, it's this monetary, it's just this fixed monetary policy every 10 minutes, every few years.
So what do you do if like all these currencies are just collapsing like that against Bitcoin, and everybody's fleeing into Bitcoin, right? Because if you look at like Turkey or Lebanon, where we've seen like literal hyperinflation, they turn to like the dollar or the euro or even, you know, Bitcoins or stable coins. You know, you escape to something that's holding its value, you know. And Bitcoin is just going to eat all those currencies. It's impossible for those currencies not to get eaten by Bitcoin, just by their nature, because Bitcoin is not going to inflate one bit, and all those other currencies are just going to keep inflating. So they're going to keep dropping against Bitcoin. So what do you choose, right? It's simple. You choose Bitcoin. It's like inevitable. I hate saying that, but you know, sometimes it just is.
I was saying the secret is put your wealth in Bitcoin before your currency hyperinflates. That's the trick, because your currency will hyperinflate. And when it does, more than likely, like there's going to be capital controls where it'll be a lot harder to buy Bitcoin with your currency. You won't be able to buy as much Bitcoin with your wealth, and you probably won't be able to buy the dollar either. Like that's, like if you look at Argentina, it's really hard to buy dollars. They have a black market for buying dollars, which is called the blue dollar in Argentina. So it's like, once your currency is already in high inflation or hyperinflation, it's too late. Like you got to be putting your money into Bitcoin.
What you know what would be like the ultimate ironic thing? If the countries that have a high percentage of their population that bought Bitcoin early might end up being the countries that are able to sustain their own currency.
Because they're quote unquote backed by Bitcoin.
Yeah, something like that, you know.
Maybe, but everyone would just be out of their currency, right? Because they would.
Yeah, but then like they'll be like, yeah, but we still need to like pay for stuff, you know. So we'll just like we'll back up our currency with Bitcoin, you know, and then it'll be like this diluted Bitcoin that gets paid to people who don't,
It'll be like the
you know.
it'll be like the Luna Terra scam. It'll work for a little bit, and then one day it'll all come crashing down.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I literally have no clue how this will play out, right? Like, will we see fiat currencies, or will it just be like, I I think it's also hard to imagine like a world with just Bitcoin. You know, I mean, honestly, even Yahoo is still around, right? So won't like Ethereum and Doge still be around? I don't know what the price will be against Bitcoin, right? But you know, maybe I don't know, like, will dollars be around? Will euros be around? Do you really think like the euro is going to be gone and the dollar is going to be gone in like what kind of a time frame?
Well, what will be the purpose of that? Like with Bitcoin,
I don't know what the purpose is, but it's just like people will keep running these things even as they're like artifacts or something.
maybe people keep like the physical paper as like as artifacts, but eventually, yeah, there's gonna be a time where people are just gonna be like, I don't want dollars, I don't want euros, I don't want yen, I don't want the Russian ruble, I don't want anything. If I do a service for you or you're buying a product from me, please buy it in Bitcoin. That's that's what's gonna happen. Like, why would you make people go through an extra step when what
Well,
they're gonna just switch
if
it
you
anyway?
if you come to Europe, then you might want to pay in dollars and get dollars. But you know, those countries decided, no, 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 you're gonna have to pay in euros. You're gonna have to change your dollars to euros, whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
That's what's going on now, right? So why would that be any different in Bitcoin?
Because those currencies are going to hyperinflate. And then once they hyperinflate, what's the purpose of using those currencies at that point?
Yeah, but okay, you're saying they're gonna hyperinflate, or do you mean they're gonna hyperinflate against Bitcoin, or are they gonna hyperinflate, you know, with
Both.
or without Bitcoin?
Both. They're already on a path to hyperinflation, whether Bitcoin was created or not. And I mean, look, like every time something happens, what's the response? Print money. And so that's where it just makes sense. It just makes sense to me, at least. And maybe I'm naive, or maybe it's wishful thinking. But it just makes sense that there would come a point where people who get in the government would say, what are we doing? Why do we even have this old artifact dollar for? Why do we have this old euro? Why don't we just do everything in Bitcoin? And then we can facilitate trade in between nations very easily, all in Bitcoin. We can do trade with countries, we can do trade globally. People can come here, they can visit, they don't have to worry about exchanging their currency from their home currency to this local government currency. I think that's, when I travel, at least when I go when I go to Europe and play basketball and I go to different countries, it's like, oh, I gotta figure out how to get a bank account in this country, and I gotta, get paid in euros, and then when I get back to the United States, I gotta switch them to dollars, or so like Bitcoin just made a lot of sense to me, because it was like, oh, this borderless money, which is one facet of Bitcoin, is that it's borderless money, right? But that's a really big facet of it when everything else hyperinflates. And I think things will hyperinflate before the dollar. I think the dollar will be the last thing to go, like the dollar milkshake theory, right? Where the dollar sucks up as everything hyperinflates, it sucks up into the dollar because there's more demand for the dollar and less demand for other currencies. But it's like the Bitcoin milkshake theory. It's like the meme where you got the guy in the church and he's pointing a gun, and then there's a guy up in the balcony pointing the gun at the other guy. It's like the dollar is pointing the gun at all the other currencies, and then the Bitcoin is up there pointing the gun at the dollar, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, we'll see, man. It's yeah, I don't know. This I was really excited from that little bounce for some reason. It's always fun when you hit a bottom again somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's the lowest, but I always imagine, like the price being like, okay, at some point we're gonna hit the place where like the hodlers just hold it, right? Everybody has Bitcoin, has bought Bitcoin, even people who like just capitulate and sell their Bitcoin. A lot of times I hear them say, well, I kept like this really small amount in. Okay, because I'm just gonna keep that until whenever,
Yeah.
And that stack just keeps growing and growing. As more people experiment with it, even if they're shitcoiners, there's always this part of the stack that just stays in Bitcoin until forever. It's like this forever play. And then you have people like you and me who just like really anyway. And you've got these investors, and then on top of that, but that sets to me the floor. And as the price goes up, you get more like speculative money in there. Like I'm going to try to 2x or 3x my money in like the next couple of months and then pull it all back out. That's like all the FOMO buys, and that's kind of like drying up right now. So those people are leaving. They're either lost or are afraid to lose more and are capitulating. And all of a sudden you hit this plateau again, and that seems to be the new floor. And it really looks like that 200 weekly moving average is kind of like that floor, right? Historically. And then look back 2 years ago, that floor was around like $3,000 to $4,000. Right now, it seems to be, in the upper 20s or $30,000. So that's really nice. That's a really nice floor. Actually, the 200 weekly moving average is at 22K right now, and it's growing by like 200 per week, I believe.
Remember how big 20,000 looked?
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah, when Bitcoin was like forever at 6, 7K, that 8K range, and you look up to that like previous all-time high of like 20K, it was like, damn, like, can you imagine it going back up to 20K? And now it's like, it's nothing.
I like that it's in this, I'm not going to call it a bear market, but I like that we've had these 9 weeks of it going down and possible crab walk for a long time. The reason why I like it, other than I get to get cheap sats, is I like it because it's like, I'm telling people now to buy Bitcoin, and I'm buying Bitcoin. People know that I'm buying Bitcoin. So it's like less people that can say, oh, you just got lucky, right? And it's cool for someone too, like a Michael Saylor, because when Michael Saylor bought in August of 2020, he like bought and then it went up, right? Because right after the halving. And so even for a guy like him, where it's like, how can you say someone's lucky when you're also at the same time saying, oh, you bought the top, like you're dumb, you're stupid. And then what happens when Bitcoin's at like 500,000 or $1 million? Like, are we lucky, or were we stupid for buying some local top in 2021 at 69,000, right? Like, you can't say that someone's dumb and stupid for buying a local top at 69K in 2021, and then 2025 and it's at 500 grand or million.
They do it anyway, Sean. They do it anyway. Like the price drops and they're like, oh, but it's so volatile. People can't deal with that volatility. But it's like, yeah, it's been volatile. But if you look back at the chart, it's been more volatile to the upside more times because we're higher than ever before. And I don't, for some reason, I never hear them complaining about that volatility when the price is going up, which is more than when it's going down. So these people are just like hilarious. But no shame, they come out like, it's so volatile. Yeah. Like as if, like, come on.
It's
Like, are
like
you like a
nothing like,
shrimp with like a 6-month memory span? You know?
yeah, yeah. Obviously, it's volatile. You want it to be volatile. If you didn't want, if you wanted something like not volatile,
I meant to say a
you would make,
goldfish,
you
by the
wouldn't
way, not a shrimp.
grow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious, man. It's so funny. I literally, that's kind of like, and it just keeps coming non-stop, right? In that sense, it doesn't feel much different than like 4 years ago. If you look at like the price action and the movement, and
And
yeah,
altcoins,
it's crazy, and it just keeps going. And this is probably going to be Bitcoin for like a long time to come. You know, like in between halvings, and you got these halvings events, and
yeah.
I don't know. I guess at some point, people, eventually, most people should be able to get it. But sometimes I wonder too, because even like before Bitcoin was here, you could be like, hey, but look, like if you just invested in an S&P over like so much years, you would get like 7% annually on average, right? Makes a lot more sense than putting your money in savings. But yet, I don't know what the number is, but I think it's like no more than 40% of like a population has stocks, you know, or invest in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and
So then
now,
you're like, why is not everybody doing that if that makes more sense? Well, it also has to do with like education
and the rate of
and
inflation.
barriers and all kind of, yeah, and also, you know, the belief that it will work, because if you if you're basically surviving to make the end of the month on your last paycheck, then you're like, yeah, whatever, you know, Bitcoin stocks, all nice for rich people, but I don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
So for some reason, you know, Bitcoin could get like you know, I sometimes wonder about that too. Will it just be like 40% of the population will hold Bitcoin and the rest just won't? I'm in a bearish mode tonight, Sean. I'm sorry.
People,
You're gonna have to do all the heavy lifting.
everyone's gonna use it. Everyone's gonna use it. Is everyone gonna hodl it? No, not everyone. Not everyone hodls the dollar, but I think it'll change because the dollar gets cheaper and it gets devalued over time, where Bitcoin is deflationary or disinflationary, and it'll grow in value over time. So because it grows in value, then you're incentivized to save it. Subconsciously, you're incentivized to save versus subconsciously being incentivized to spend and have no money. So I think a lot of people, I think more people will hold Bitcoin than hold the dollar. You can mark that down. That's my
that's an interesting. I wish we could measure that. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah.
The day that more people hold Bitcoin than they hold US dollars.
Yeah, that will
there is this chart out there that shows like you know, like it's like this currency list of currencies and their market caps. And you just like see Bitcoin climbing in there year over year.
Yes.
It's like we're now bigger than the ruble, and we're now bigger than, yeah, it's and of course you have like what is it, the US dollar, the euro, and the yuan at the top, I believe. I'm not sure about that order.
It'll be fun to watch the Lightning, what you were talking about earlier, to watch the Lightning Network market cap get bigger than a lot of the currencies.
Yeah. Hey, also, what was pretty interesting, what I'm noticing is that, and that's something you also see in previous cycle, is that the miners having a tough time right now. So profitability on mining is going down fast, right? Because we're at these low price levels.
Yeah.
And the hash rate has been growing and growing and growing. So, you know, your share of the pie keeps decreasing, and in your returns, if you do get some Bitcoin, are lower than expected. So some of these miners have already resorted to switching off. So that's something we saw in 2018 as well, I believe. In 2019, this miner capitulation,
which is good for them.
Yeah, it's like this natural balancing free market forces at work. You know, it's like you get this.
What's
Yeah,
good too is that it's not like the fiat system, where the fiat system is,
no,
oh, you're
this is pure. This
not
is,
profitable. Yeah.
dude, this is like the only open and free market 24/7, 365. It's traded like in every currency pair in the world, all over the world. Um, yeah, and just free floating. But that is what a free market looks like, and the market looks at the world and price in risk. You cannot create a risk-free world, right? So what the central banks and stuff
Yeah.
are trying to do is like, no, 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 we prefer steady 2% growth per year, so we'll manage that. No, that's not how the world works. If you're a farmer, some years your crops are going to fail. You might even get into like this multi-year drought period. That is the way life has always been, and that's like, to me, that's a true free market, and Bitcoin is just a reflection of that. And I mean, yeah, it's tough when you're like just starting, but as Bitcoin progresses, and becomes worth more, it's like the volatility like phases you less and less, because as you've built in, I don't know. And I guess, like being a farmer would be the same way, like when you have good years, if you're just starting and you start out with like 2 or 3 bad years, that's like a tough beginning. But if you keep on trucking, and you keep working the land and putting in your proof of work, you start saving up and building up, and maybe you save some of your farm gains
Yeah.
for years that might be tougher. Yeah, then you become more resilient, and yeah, I don't know. It just seems really logical. I don't even know where where I was going with this.
Well, I think it's
Yeah,
good. I think what's good
I
about
lost my track.
miners struggling
Oh
is
yeah, the miners. Yeah.
that it makes it better for like, I look at it this way too. If the Bitcoin price is high and the miners who are already in the game, then they can spend a lot more money on like really expanding their mining operation. And so it's harder for newer miners to come in, I think, right? Does that make sense?
Look, it also ties into the whole energy debate, right? Look, spending energy is costs money. You have to, it costs resources, the very minimum, money and or resources and time, and it's not free. So everybody is just making their own economic calculations as to whether or not it's still profitable to do it. So if people think it's worth it, they'll keep doing it. As the Bitcoin price stays lower, then yeah, then it just finds its natural balance.
Homeostasis.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's pretty interesting to see, because in the last year and a half, I remember everybody was like mining, 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 and remember like Pedro, he got into mining, I think 2020 already, and he got like his miner cheap because they were like right before the bull run, and then I think it was like within 4 or 5 months, like the price of miners like tripled or something.
Yeah.
Even before the Bitcoin price went up that much. So yeah, it's kind of funny to see where that goes. And also, isn't like Intel making didn't they announce they're gonna make like mining
Yeah, like American miners. Uh-huh.
yeah, more efficient, less power usage, all that kind of stuff?
We'll see. I mean, as we've been learning along this journey, energy expenditure is a good thing. It's always led to increased prosperity in humanity. And so, I just listened to, did you listen to the Bitcoin Magazine podcast with Jimmy Song?
No, I didn't.
He just did one, was really good. It was pretty short. It's like 40 minutes. And he basically talked about how all of these developing countries are held to the ESG standards. And because they're held to these ESG standards, then they aren't allowed, or they won't get subsidies or money or loans to develop more, because they'd have to use coal or they'd have to use fossil fuels. And because they would have to use that, then they actually are held back from developing from the developed countries. Yeah. So it's almost like a way of keeping the people in power and keeping those who are not in power out of power and out of even developing, of getting roads, of getting clean water. And so it's like, it's really interesting to put it that way, that even right now, a lot of the Western countries are holding back these third world countries from actually developing, because we're trying to put this thing on them that when our countries developed, this ESG narrative didn't exist. And so when our countries developed, we used coal and fossil fuels, and that's how we developed, expending energy. And now that there's other countries that want to develop and are trying to expend energy in the same ways that we did, we say, oh no, that's not good for the earth, that's not good for the environment, you can't do that, and then leave them in poverty. So it's kind of screwed up from that sense of how, like, why expending energy is actually a good thing for humanity. It's actually the moral thing to do, is to use the fossil fuels and to use coal. What
was that last bit? Let me see. You said that's why it's good to use coal and fossil fuels?
Yes. Because if you don't.
By the way, you said it's they use the ESG, right? To put like these extra restrictions and to like keep, to keep them small, basically.
To keep them in poverty.
To keep them, well, basically to get resources from their countries for free, right? That's the game. I mean, that's what the Europeans did when they started sailing across the globe. They tried to get their gold and their spices from all countries, and then during the industrial age, it was all about getting like all kind of minerals and woods and what is it, like aluminium and anyway, whether it's bananas or food, it's just trying to get all these products from around the world for as cheap as you can. So you exploit them on labor, right? You provide them with loans that they can't pay back, so then they'll have to pay you in like resources forever. That's been the game all along. It's like playing, this game called Risk, where you have like a board game of the world.
Global domination.
Yeah, well, that's literally what's going on, right? I don't know. It's just like game theory. We have countries and they're competing for like scarce resources on this planet, right? So I'm not sure if that's going to change though. I'm not sure I don't know if Bitcoin can change that. At least Bitcoin can give everybody access to with the same opportunity cost, to getting like Bitcoin.
It can change it.
But it won't stop countries with power trying to milk countries that have less power. I think that will, I don't think that will change.
Well, it can't stop these countries in power from trying to do it, but it can make those smaller countries gain power without needing the bigger countries, like El Salvador, doing something like a Bitcoin bond, getting free from the IMF loans, and not needing loans or to be ESG compliant to develop. They don't rely on the Western countries anymore to like, if you use Bitcoin in that way, then you don't rely on the Western countries to develop. You now become self-sufficient using a self-sufficient money.
Yeah, it's a chance, because we're in this transitioning phase from like a fiat denominated world to a Bitcoin world. And since fiat is gonna crash against Bitcoin, then they're in this unique opportunity right now that they can wipe away their fiat denominated debts by getting into Bitcoin now. So but once we're in like this hyper Bitcoinized world, right, and these underdeveloped countries which are not producing much and they need aid when a hurricane hits or whatever, they're gonna need like help again. and then their Bitcoin is finished, and then we're going to loan them some Bitcoin, and then we're back in that situation, right? And then we can start taking the resources from them again.
But I think what will happen is this. I mean, this is like the hash wars, basically. A lot of these countries will set up miners themselves, and they'll look for renewable energy because it's cheaper energy. And then at the same time, Bitcoin's going to battle this ESG narrative. Like, it's something else that it does, because the ESG narrative is just communism repackaged. It's communism 2.0. Oh, you're not compliant, you don't follow our rules, okay, then you can't participate. That's just communism. So ESG is going head to head against Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's going to win that. It's gonna take some time for Bitcoin to win it, but it will win it when people are forced to face the facts of either I use fiat or I use Bitcoin that mines, and then they have to figure out, why is it good? Like, why is proof of work good? And when they figure that out, then you wipe away the ESG narrative. And when that gets wiped away, then a lot of this other stuff, I mean, yeah, they'll probably use some other communist thing to try to take people's power away or keep people in poverty, keep smaller countries in poverty. But
what I really like is Jeff Booth's take on this, right? It's kind of saying that, like, you have these two competing systems against each other, right? Like, on the one hand, we have like this fiat system, which is just, you know, by the way it's constructed, needs to like print all the time and needs to centralize power further and further and further. So you're creating like this position where like power just keeps centralizing on a global scale, which is really scary at the same time. And that's up against Bitcoin, you know, which is just a completely opposing system. Anyway, point of it being, and now I completely lost my my track, is that yeah, Bitcoin kind of takes away that centralizing power that we have in the fiat system, you know, where they're able to, like, on a global scale, push this ESG narrative. That won't work under a Bitcoin standard because people will have, you know, they have the money that cannot be taken away from them, so you cannot centrally suck or dilute people from this central point of power.
That is the winning way. Then Bitcoin, I think, is gonna, obviously I think Bitcoin's gonna win it. So
really,
maybe we'll find out. You'll find out on the next episode, Bitcoiner's Guide. Okay, I think that
talking about that, like, we didn't have a guest on today, right? So what are we going to do with that moving forward?
Get a guest.
I thought it was kind of fun with Greg. I guess if you have like 3 people on, it's a different dynamic.
You didn't like just talking to me today?
Yeah, I did. I mean, how long have we been going? Pretty long. Yeah.
Let's get a guest. Let's get a guest next week.
Yeah, there's so many people to talk to, actually. I would love to talk to a bunch of people and just discuss whatever's going on, yeah.
Okay, let's do it. All right. Whoever you want. If you don't want someone, tell me now. Name names.
Nobody's coming to mind right now.
Blacklisted from Bitcoiner's Guide.
Too many.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah, it could be funny. I'm thinking like Nicholas, what's his name, Taleb, or Peter Schiff or whatever. On the other hand, if he wants to come on and talk,
no regrets.
I mean, it would be funny as hell. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that does it. For anyone, if you've made it this far, remember this week, James Lavish, reformed hedge fund manager, hedge fund manager, now Bitcoiner. He joins the Meme Factory podcast this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. live. Don't miss it. It's going to be great. And again, if you liked it, remember what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here. Don't just let it stay here. Please like and subscribe. And remember, this is the podcast, the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about it.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, you know, maybe not for you, but for me, definitely. So as for Bitcoiner's Guide episode 15 from Plan Marcus and Big Sean, we're over now. Peace and much love.